please. What'd I do?
It's 6 o'clock.
You're good. Sorry about that. Paper for again.
I thought you had me on a timer and it already run out. Welcome all of you to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Edenton Town Council for the month of November. We'll follow our agenda tonight, so if you would now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing. Councilman Biggs will offer an invocation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eternal Father, we thank you so much for this day, Father, and we just thank you for the blessings that you bestowed upon us, this town, this region, this state, Father. We thank you for the people that we represent. And Father, we pray tonight that our representation will be good for them and good in your sight. We ask this through Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Alrighty, that brings us to item 4 on our agenda, which is a public hearing with respect to a request to obtain a taxi cab license to operate in the town of Edenton. Anne Marie, would you give us a background on that, please, ma'am?
I'd be happy to, and council will remember that the public hearing had actually been advertised for your regular meeting in October, but unfortunately the applicant was ill and unable to attend. At that time, the council voted to table the public hearing to this evening's meeting. Part of the notification requirement was that we had to send a letter to the 2 other taxi cab licensed operators. So we did inform them in writing that the hearing had been tabled to this meeting, and I don't see them here tonight. But Mr. Charlie Leary submitted an application for a permit to operate a taxi cab business. And you all know Charlie. We know him affectionately as Hawk. He worked for the town of Edenton in our public works garage for a number of years. And prior to that, he worked at the Edenton Cotton Mill. And the part of the evaluation process required the police chief to do a background check, and of course everything came back fine, and we reported those results to you in your packet. Tonight you can hear briefly, Charlie will state why he wants the permit, and then conduct the public hearing, and after the public hearing the council can vote to either issue the permit or to deny the permit.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am. Charlie, if you would please come to the podium. We would like to hear you tell us about your interest in being a cab operator in our town.
All right, my name is Charlie Leary. I live out on the county, and I've been employed for the town for quite a few years, and I'm thinking that I would like to maintain the cab. Of course, that'd be try to help some of the older peoples and some people that don't have license and stuff to be able to go and do grocery shopping, whatever. And that's pretty much that I have to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I got a lot to say, but you just don't focus right now.
Well, what I'll do is I'll open it up for some questions from the council members, and maybe that'll give you some further thoughts. Council members, anybody have anything they'd like to ask of Mr. Leary?
I don't have anything that I want to ask of him, but I've known him all my life, and he's been a very honest and hard-working person. And for him to own and operate a cab in Edenton would be a great idea. I support him 100%.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
I totally agree.
Thank you, sir.
And I also agree, I like that when you say you pick up the older people, because
Yeah.
a lot of them doesn't have license, and so, good idea.
I
God
appreciate it.
bless you. And I've been knowing you for a long time, and very honest person.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So just keep up the good work.
I appreciate you doing this. I mean, you're right, we need more, so thank you.
I appreciate it.
Are we gonna have a designated spot for cabs to wait, or?
Charlie did not ask for a cab stand. I'm assuming that you would be operating from your house, but if you wanted a location, we can certainly talk about that. That's not part of this application process.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Appreciate your interest, and council members appreciate your comments and as well in support of Mr. Leary's application. With the applicant having presented and the council having spoken, I'll now open the floor up for public comment. If anybody has anything they would like to say in either support of or in opposition to the request from Mr. Leary to operate a cab, please take the podium and state your name, and we'd be happy to hear from you. Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the table for council consideration. Council, Chair would entertain a motion to grant Mr. Leary the taxi cab operator's license.
I make a motion that Mr. Leary's request to operate a cab company in Edenton be approved. I put it in the form of a motion.
Second it.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the license, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Mr. Leary, congratulations. Look forward to your presence in our town as a cab driver, and all the best. Thanks again for your interest.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, item 5 is a presentation tonight, and Anne Marie, I will call upon you again, please, ma'am, to introduce our guests and tell us what you all are going to talk about.
Okay, Mayor, I'm happy to introduce Renee Jackson. Renee is a resident of Edenton. She's a former town manager, and she also is a former physical education teacher. And she helped me, you will recall, when Sam was away, Renee helped me get the redevelopment plans initiated and started the framework for those 2 projects. And then when Sam returned, we received an announcement about grant opportunities through the Connect NC bond program, that there's $3 million available through the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund for any type of recreation program. And so you will recall about a year ago, the county applied for and received funding from Trillium, and they installed a fabulous, inclusive, universal designed playground in the northern end of the county. And we have received a lot of requests, a lot of information from citizens about wanting to have a similar playground in town. And the NC Connect bond focuses on, as Renee will tell you, children with and veterans with disabilities. We're also working on a plan to update our neighborhood playgrounds, which desperately need upgrading. So Renee's been meeting with vendors, she's been meeting with stakeholders, and the grant application is due December 1st. And so we want to present a plan that we've been working on and have received a lot of input from different stakeholders, but we want to make sure that the council is okay with us pursuing this. You actually will have to, if you, excuse me, if you agree that you want us to complete the grant application, we would present the grant application completed to you at your November 28th meeting. So tonight, we're looking for feedback and direction and guidance. So with that, I'll turn it over to Renee.
Okay, we have looked at several grants, and the different grants have different criteria, and they'll change as the years go on. And this grant is for, is to benefit children with disabilities and veterans with disabilities. So that has to be our focus. Okay, I'm gonna go on here. It's funded through the PARTF, the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. Can y'all hear me, or do you want me to get behind the mic? Okay, okay. And here are some of the details about the grant. $3 million available to local governments in North Carolina. It's not a huge amount of money to be distributed. I went to a workshop and there were several. They had about 9 locations and there were several people at each location. So there may be a lot of people applying and not a whole lot of money to go around. So they look at different things. They have a rubric and a checklist, and you get points in certain areas. And one of the areas is how much money you're asking for. The maximum you can ask for is $500,000. The park, if you've been out to the North Rec Center, is a universal park, which enables children with disabilities to access. And there's the budget was about $350,000. So we're trying to stay a little bit lower so that it'll help us with, to get that funding. And as Anne Marie mentioned, this deadline is December 1st. The match is 20%, and the recipients will be selected in February or March of 2017. Then once, if you're granted the money, you have 3 years to complete it, and there are on-site visits afterwards. And the goal of the grant is to provide facilities and or equipment to meet the unique needs of children and or veterans with physical and developmental disabilities. And there is a big emphasis on universal design. They mention that over and over and over. So we're not just looking at equipment that's designated specifically for disabled children or disabled vets. It's equipment that's universal that can be used by anyone. And that is what our next question is. What is universal design? Their definition is products designed so that they can be used by as many people as possible. So this is just an example of a piece of equipment that meets the universal design standard. It's a seesaw, but it's called a Weesaw, and it's designed so that children that need back support can sit in the chairs that have poor muscle control. They can be transferred from a wheelchair into the seat, and it'll support their body weight. They have something to hold on to if they become unsteady. But any child can get on this, or an adult. And there's also an area in the middle that a child can sit, or a couple of children can sit or lay down if they just want to lay down and feel the swaying motion and aren't able to sit up. So there are a lot of opportunities for people of different abilities to ride on this, and sometimes parents will get on with them. So, and it's much safer than some of the seesaws we've seen in the past. Or maybe you've gone flying off. Some of the benefits of universal design, it brings communities and families together through the integration of people of varied ages, abilities, and backgrounds. So you might have a disabled grandparent or a parent that can actually get onto the park and get on the equipment with their child, or stand beside their child. And part of that has to do with the surfacing of the equipment and the stability of it, that it's larger and can accommodate adults as well, or teenagers with disabilities. It also reduces duplicating. If, for example, you don't have to buy a piece of equipment for a disabled child, and then for a child that is not disabled, one piece of equipment accommodates everybody. So that's a savings in cost if you focus on these universal pieces. And this is another example here of something you use in a sandbox. You can use it sitting in a wheelchair, or a child can walk up and use it standing. So anybody can use that as well. And because it has long handles, a smaller child can use it, or an adult if they want to get in and play with their child. And this is what we've done so far. We've been doing some research to see, if it's something that the community needs and can use. And I invited all of the EC teachers, occupational therapists, and the EC director to a meeting and distributed lots of catalogs of information. And because they've been able to take their EC children out to the park and the North Rec Center, the playground there, they've seen their children in action, and they're able to say this piece was a little dangerous, or they love this piece, or I saw Johnny really react to this one because it has textile features and things that I hadn't even thought about. So they were able to give us really good input. We marked a bunch of our favorites, and so I got a lot of great input from them. And that's part, you get points for as much input as possible from the public. We held the public input meeting, the ad, whoops, I'm sorry, went to the pointer. This is the ad that was in the paper. They put a little article about the meeting. Didn't have a great turnout for that, but we were able to get the word out. And also it was mentioned in the ad that we were putting a link on the website. So if you couldn't make the meeting, you can go to the website and fill out a survey about it also. And here's where it was posted and advertised. And so far, 100% of the people that responded say they want to see Edenton apply for the grant. One of the things we included in the grant questionnaire was the opportunity of having a splash pad where maybe you have water spouts, and then we got into a discussion with our different committees about how the water would mix and wet children are on the equipment, so we decided to leave that aspect off. One of the vendors suggested we could put some misters out to cool off, but a lot of times kids will show up in bathing suits and get soaking wet and move around, so we wanted to put more thought into the water aspect and leave that out of this grant for now. And that will remain on the site, and up until the end, and I'll gather the information. How do we turn our park into a universal design? The best or most economical way that we found after meeting with our committee, and I don't know if I mentioned that, did I have the committee slide? I did. We also have put a committee together of community leaders and, like Anne Marie says, stakeholders, people that have interest in health and could give us some input on this area. So we went to the site and looked at it, and we felt like the most economical thing to do would be to expand the surfacing. It needs to be replaced. A lot of the teachers and parents were saying that the children are tripping on the tiles. They're outdated, and they're starting to separate and stand up and collect leaves and that sort of thing. And this is the latest and greatest surfacing. It's expensive, but it will last much longer than the tiles, and it will withstand flooding. So that's a good thing, as many storms as we've had lately. And it goes down in little balls. It's spread while it's wet, and then it dries flat. So those are some examples of colors that comes in. And we talked about staying with the color theme instead of going wild and having Disneyland out here to keep it off the same, like it was all part of the main plan. So that's an example of the surfacing. So what we're asking, or would ask for in the grant, is to replace the existing surfacing and expand it as well. This is a shot of the park in all of this area. This is this black surface here. These are the tiles, and you can see there's green area around it, all the way around here, and part of it goes under the shade of these trees. So we're looking at expanding the surface all the way to the edge. And there's also some area in here that's outside of the swing range and in this middle part that we could add small pieces of equipment here and here when we've got little balance beams that teachers ask for to really help their kids with their balance and we could do something in here, like a round item. And one of the biggest draws is this zip line. It's called, I think a zip scooter or something. And we think it'll fit here along this line. So rather than coming way out here and making an area which we originally had planned for, the surface area would really increase the cost drastically. So we're looking at making it as compact as possible, leaving this area over here for future plans as we decide. So we would add several pieces of equipment in this area. And then we also are looking at putting some exercise equipment out, either for disabled teens or veterans, that would go right across here. And also parents and grandparents can exercise while they're watching the children. And we also had a need for a fence, possibly to go from here around the edge, so people don't have to worry about their children wandering off. Okay, next one. Again, the question of how do we turn the park into a universal design, the surfacing was one thing, because you can, it's easier for kids with walkers or wheelchairs to maneuver over the surface. We would add new playground equipment based on the input we get from the public and the teachers and committees. Upgrade the fencing to encompass the playground and add some new universal exercise pieces outside of the current playground area. These are some of the favorites of the teachers. This one is a little zip line, but we have room, we think, for a double, so we could have 2 different types of seats. This seat is wheelchair transferable, and we also, there's seats available that are just like a rope with a little seat on the bottom that would be, for other children. This is used for climbing. It has all sorts of needs. All autistic children like to be inside of things and feel the boundaries around them. And this is a glider that's brand new that has ropes all through it, so you can climb all inside of it. And it takes a lot of strength to push it, so it won't go flying around and sling people off. So the kids that are pushing are getting a lot of exercise as well. Again, an aerial photo, and the reason I showed you this is here, this is where we're looking at putting the exercise equipment so that they can view what's happening on the playground. Okay. The cost of this project would be a maximum of $250, depending on what we can fit in the area. That would include the resurfacing, the fencing, and the new equipment. And so the grants donation would be $200,000. So that's what we would be asking for, and then our cost would be $50,000. And that would include everything, the planning and everything. And then I've just put some little pictures of some options that we've considered and seen. If approved, the Colonial Park would be a family-oriented park for the enjoyment of children and adults of all ages and abilities through universal design. So it wouldn't exclude anyone, whether they're an adult that's handicapped that wants to take their child, or a family that has a handicapped child. And another thing I didn't mention earlier in here is there's a social aspect of the children being together on equipment, where you have handicapped children working side by side or playing side by side and having conversations with other children. So that's it. And if you have any questions, let me know. And if you're excited about it, as I am, which I hope, we can move forward with the application.
Renee, one question that comes to mind, I had ran through this where, and of course you showed it, that we've got to come up with a 20% match. Is there a possibility that, and I know we can't use in-kind services and all that according to this, but is there a possibility that we could find a matching grant somewhere? Have y'all explored that by chance? Or?
The match cannot be, you can't combine grants for the match.
Okay.
It has to come from us. It could come from donations. If somebody asked online, what can I donate?
Right.
So we could do, fund my project, or one of those type things on the website to help fund the match. But yeah, they can't be combined.
Renee, is in your presentation, you mentioned the product that is the playground equipment that's in the park now. That's all adaptable. I think that's in relatively good shape.
It is. We
Yeah.
checked it out. It's in
So
good
you
shape.
can utilize that in your overall plan. And I really like the fact that you're extending the size. And I'm a little bit embarrassed to ask this question, but do you have a plan in there for places for people to sit?
Yes, we've got existing benches, and we can add some benches.
Well, we have a couple of benches out there, but they're insufficient to be participant with the park. I mean, we've got more out in the park itself. And taking children over here to the park, it's sometimes have to wait for an opportunity to sit down.
Good feedback.
We spoke with Shannon, she was on our committee, that she was in charge of the park at the North Rec Center, and that's one thing she mentioned that she forgot to include was like benches and trash cans and water fountains.
They're pretty important.
So we did include a little bit of a buffer to take care of those kind of things if needed.
How tall is the fence?
We haven't gotten into that much detail yet, but they wanted it to be.
It's just one that maybe a 3-year-old or 5-year-old wouldn't crawl over.
Right, yeah, have to be childproof.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Some kids, you can say, don't cross that fence, even though they can go under it,
That's
and they're fine with that. And others are like,
It's a boundary.
So we talked about doing something with railings, but I don't know about height. But we can look further at that.
Is there any supervision required from the town once the park expands in size, and considering the fact that you're dealing with children who have challenges and so forth? I was looking at that one piece of equipment that had 4 seats on it, for example. You'd have the potential anyway of having 4 kids on there with a different set of issues. I mean, is everybody, does that work? I mean, without, is there need for an attendant, I guess is what I'm asking.
I guess,
Is it
yes,
just parental?
it would be good to have an attendant, and that was one of the things on the point system is, do you have a full-time employee? And we have 1.5 full-time employees.
Okay.
But with the special needs children, they're going to come with an adult, and it's really the parents' responsibility to supervise the children, but if something gets out of hand, or somebody comes out and tries to vandalize or whatever, that would be a situation where it would be good to have somebody on hand that can, intervene.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to hear, that the ultimate responsibility would fall on the person that brought the child to the park.
But typically, you don't have somebody at the playgrounds actually standing out and supervising.
Right.
Because you've got so many parents. I mean, some of them will leave them there. I've noticed that at the malls, like little children.
Yeah.
They're running, wreaking havoc, like, where's your mom? She went shopping. So, but that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about the fence too. Okay, you go on inside the fence, I'll see you later.
It's called a free range.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your hard
Yeah.
work.
Fantastic.
Terrific. We'll find that match somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
Don't have any other questions, I'll shut down.
Okay, thank you very much, Renee, for
thank you.
Good job.
sharing your findings with us and for the work that went in and from you and your committee as well.
Ralph enjoyed it.
Council members, this requires, as Anne Marie said earlier, just a simple keep going from us, that we stay on track with their recommendations and let them follow through in a timely way so we can get this grant applied for and formally presented at our November committee meeting date. So, motion is not required, is it? Just a consensus to move forward? Anybody have any hesitation or reservation about that?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
I would say, though, that maybe we need to really start thinking about how we're going to come up with this $50,000 match. I mean, to go in with the program. I don't want us to be, and I know we'll raise it somehow, some way, but I don't want us to be standing out in the dark when they come knocking and say, yeah, you got the grant, where's your $50,000?
Yeah, as I recall, on what's out there now, there was a community effort.
Right, that's right.
Money was collected.
That's right.
There was.
From citizens at various points throughout the community.
Yeah, the sign's still hanging, you're right.
Okay.
We can always withdraw the application if we feel like we can't raise the money or.
We'll raise it.
We'll raise it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. That's not
We'll figure it
us. Somebody's gonna give us $250,000 or whatever. We'll figure it out.
All right, thanks again. Moving now to new business, we have a couple items there, please, Anne Marie, if you would lead us with those two.
Really, one administrative and then one that's going to create a lot of administrative work. We have a resolution, Mayor, from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. You recall with that grant, when the council adopted the grant several years ago, excuse me, you were required to authorize specific officials to be able to sign. They're called invoices. We send an invoice to the Housing Finance Agency to be reimbursed for the housing rehabilitation work that the grant paid for. And Randy Jordan, our former finance officer, was one of the signatories that you approved. And now that he has retired, we're asking that you approve Jennifer Baldwin as the signator for the finance officer.
Okay, anybody need any further explanation? If not, I'll call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right, done.
Mayor, the second resolution is from FEMA, and we were recently informed by FEMA that Chowan County was designated as a county that is eligible for what's called public assistance, and that public assistance is funding for public agencies and nonprofits that were impacted or had damages as the result of Hurricane Matthew. And I want to give a shout out to the chamber because this was sort of it was a very unusual storm. The major impacts occurred late at night. A lot of people did not see the impacts, and the storm water went away by the time the next morning came around mostly. And so a lot of people were not aware of damages, and then people that suffered damage didn't realize that there might be help available. So the chamber worked with us and did a great job in publicizing, Facebooking, trying to get individuals and businesses who suffered property damages to register. And that was the first key in getting FEMA's attention that there was damage here. So we were approved for individual assistance, and then it took a lot of effort to demonstrate to FEMA that our public governments and nonprofits also suffer damage. So the first step is for the council to designate an official applicant, and those of you that were here during Hurricane Irene and of course Hurricane Isabel, remember the town designated the manager, myself, as the agent's applicant, and that you are giving or you're authorizing me to sign all of the paperwork, and there is an enormous amount of paperwork, but this is the first step. If you approve this resolution, we expect that FEMA will be coming next week, and they'll do a damage assessment. They'll want to see, Jennifer and I had a conference call with them the other day, and we gave a report of the damage, and now they want to come and inspect it, and then we are hopeful that after they inspect it, maybe a week or two later, they'll deem us eligible to submit what they call requests for project, I can't remember the name, Steve probably remembers it. It's PWs, project worksheets, for different categories of damage. So in order to get all of that moving, the council needs to adopt this resolution, which basically gives the manager the authority to sign the paperwork.
Okay. All right, there you have it. Any questions of our manager relative to what this is all about? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to adopt a resolution naming Anne Marie, our manager, as the applicant.
I so move.
Second. Okay, motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Very good.
And
Thank
Mayor, if I just might add, for the benefit of the public that may view this, FEMA is getting ready to move in a mobile unit that will be here for at least a couple weeks to help individuals with the paperwork for them to apply for loans and possible grants. And that unit is going to be set up, I believe, at the high school parking lot right on Broad Street, and I believe a second unit is going to be set up somewhere in the county. So we'll try to publicize that, and I think that will be a big help to the people who've suffered damages personally.
Very helpful.
Is this FEMA or SBA?
I was told it was FEMA.
Yeah, it is FEMA.
Well, and I went into the one in Windsor today, and it says FEMA, and then you walk in, it's both FEMA and SBA.
Well, that's
But
what I was
mostly
getting at.
SBA.
And the deal is, you go in, and you have to do the SBA thing first. And then if you don't qualify there, they send you on to FEMA. Unfortunately, people that have tried to keep things in line, then they'll qualify for a loan and not a grant. I mean, that's the way it works. And I hate the way that it works. I mean, I really do, because there's a lot of people small businesses that have lost a terrific amount of money.
And they're putting them in the loan line?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of your small towns, well, not even small towns, but even Greenville or Kinston and places like that suffered so much during Floyd, a lot of these small businesses are not going to come back this time because they were already paying an SBA loan. So
Are there any grants at all for businesses? I didn't think there were.
Well, there are if you don't qualify for the loan.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I lost a ton in this flood, and I got put in the loan line.
Now, there's two, just real quick here, if you don't mind, Mayor, there are two, the Rural Center and what used to be called the Support Center. They both got $1 million, I think I'm right in telling you, from Golden Leaf. And they're out now doing bridge loans. So if you know of anyone that a bridge loan would help, you can get up to $15,000 from each, so I understand, or the possibility of each, at 0% interest for up to 180 days. So, you know, and it's got to be a business that has applied to SBA, whether you qualified or didn't, but at least there's that money out there. That, you know, some people might just need some cash flow and bridge money until FEMA comes through or their loans come through from the banks or whatever. So there's a lot of possibilities out there.
Interesting. Okay, item 7, those items considered timely and important from town council members. Anybody have anything they'd like to share with your colleagues this evening?
I mean, I've got one thing as usual. I mean, since we're sitting here talking about the flood, I know back September the 21st, I realized that morning we had a lot of rain from Julia. And I happened to be going to the airport meeting that morning and coming down Broad Street, and water was well halfway over my tires. And that was, you know, before the rain had really really poured a lot that morning. And then, of course, when Matthew comes along, we see more evidence of flooding on Broad Street. As a matter of fact, it was so bad, I called a friend of mine that was leaving McDonald's and told him he needed to find a different way to go to work, on September 21st. I hope that we're going to engage someone, some company, that can come back and maybe, and I realize it was a lot of rain. I mean, it was a lot of water. I realize that. But for ever how many hundreds of years, no one can go back and say, we got pictures, or we remember, or we have heard of, blah, 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 that Broad Street flooded. And there has bound to have been a time that, we got that amount of water at some point in time. I mean, and I hope that we'll take this opportunity, that we will find an engineering company or I'm not sure where I want to go with this, to be real honest, but I don't want us to not try and find out if there's something wrong just besides we got a whole lot of rain. Because it won't just on Broad Street. It backed all the way up to the fire department. It came down behind the old Edenton station. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of water, and I'm the first one to agree with that. But we've had tremendous amount of water before, and that didn't happen. And I really hope that we'll find a way to find someone or some company to look into that for us.
We've been drilling down really deep with the staff, spending a lot of time looking at maps, looking at the FEMA inundation maps, plugging in what the amount of storm surge that occurred during that storm, looking at drainage maps, looking at watersheds, Peanut Drive, Regulator Marine. There was just water backed up everywhere. What we've narrowed it down to, Councilman, is, I think the next step is, and we're going to have, our new Public Works Director will be on board by the end of November, and a lot of his training and experience is in stormwater. But one thought that we have is, do we need to we normally TV and inspect sanitary sewer lines for blockages? Do we need to just hire somebody like Tri-State, who you've hired in the past, to look at sewer lines that may be cracked or taking in, stormwater? But do we need to double check the stormwater pipes in that area? We've talked to soil conservation. We are not satisfied with saying, well, you know what, we just got a lot of rain. We're not.
And we shouldn't be. I agree. We shouldn't.
Not at all. And we've asked the state for some assistance, DOT. They've agreed to help us look at some watersheds. And I met with an engineer, an engineering consultant, who has a lot of knowledge of stormwater permitting and drainage in our area, to get some ideas of where do we go from here? How do we really verify that what we have is working properly? Because you can't build stormwater systems to handle extreme rains. And I have heard from some old timers, I can't recall who they are off the top of my head right now, but that they remember in the 60s or in the 50s or after some storm, water like that on Broad Street. But anyway, that still doesn't satisfy us, that we just need to sit back and say, well, you know what, it was just 2 bad rains in a short period of time. So.
Well, I gotta say, had it not been for nature stepping in and helping us, it would have been much, much worse, because when the wind switched, the water didn't rise, as they say, from the sound. In the past, we've had the flood coming from the sound. This time, if the wind had stayed like it was at the beginning of the storm approaching us, we'd have had almost 2 times the problem that we experienced.
Well,
Because the water coming down from the heavens was just outrageous. But we didn't get the seawater that we would have normally gotten.
But the storm, it was almost a 3-foot surge, and when you plug that into
Yeah.
the inundation maps, you can see water from
Everywhere.
the waterfront, about almost a good, I don't know, it wasn't halfway up the town, but a good third of the way. I mean, all the way up to the concrete plant. Those ditches were over, those creeks that feed into Queen Anne and those branches were just full, so.
Well, and I guess one of my main concerns is, so why does it flood, or why did it flood, where it flooded, versus why did it stay running right down Broad Street? And I, like a lot of other people, looked at that storm all night, I guess. And there was times that naturally water was running down Broad Street, but it wasn't like once you got past the 400 block that it was flooding anywhere. I mean, somewhere along the line, there's just got to be something that's not exactly right. And I would ask that we receive an update on this, because this is not one thing that I want to see us again lull around on. I would ask that we could get a report on this no more than once every 2 weeks of exactly what's going on and what we're doing or what is recommended that we do. If it's TV in the line, if we got to find the money, we got to find the money. But I've lived on Broad Street now 30 years, and I've never seen anything like it. And I know 30 years isn't a long time when we're talking ancient history, but I've seen a lot of storms come through there too in 30 years.
As someone that was at ground zero, I really would like to see it fixed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So,
I'm sure.
if that's possible.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to share with your fellow council members? Okay, hearing none, I'll open the floor for public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, anybody here that would like to speak to the town council, if you would, come take the podium, state your name, and we'd be happy to hear from you.
James and Emile O'Leary, Mr. Mayor, council members. And anything that I have to say right now is almost redundant after the last discussion, because I feel like we're here talking under the heading of timely and important. I would like to key off on the important part. Last January, February, I asked Emile why we had flood insurance. It didn't make any sense. I mean, we live on the highest part of Edenton in a way, and she kind of nodded, and fortunately went ahead and kept up the premium, because I came out on Sunday morning and found we had lost a car, we'd lost a furnace, we had lost 2 air conditioning condensers, lawnmower equipment, tools. We had freezer. We had 3 feet of water in the backyard. We had 2 feet of water around our house, literally all the way around our house. Now, I've never seen anything like that. And like Steve, I've been here, living in Broad Street for 30 years. On top of that, people were wading up Broad Street, in the crown of Broad Street, with water up to their knees, while the water was flowing towards the sound. In fact, we had 2 large 6x6s underneath our house, 3 feet long, and they floated south to our neighbor's yard, which was, about 100 feet away. there is obviously a problem related to that particular area. I agree, we had lots of water, lots of rain. This is not surge, I'm sorry. I think this is drainage problem. I really do. What really worries me is that, apart from the usual mold and what have you, we had 2 rosemary bushes that died
Within 2 weeks
like that.
after the flood.
Now,
And
rosemary,
one was 30 years old.
yeah, rosemary's pretty resilient.
Yeah, and it's withstand
And
everything.
I kind of worry, what in heaven's name polished off the rosemary? All
What's
I
in
know,
the water?
I know it was underwater. Now, I really think that this is critical. John Smith, the water came in from the back of his place, and he had a dipsy dumpster that floated southwards. I mean, to me, that's a lot of water.
It had to float up and out of the, basically, container it was in and float down. It wasn't just floating straight.
Our neighbors beside us they have replaced their furnace.
Now, when they first came down, the husband said, sell the house, we don't want to live here.
So,
And they haven't made it yet here to live
they're from-
full time.
They're coming from Northern Virginia. Nice people. So I really think that this is a serious problem that needs to be studied. Because I'm scared to death of the next storm. And there's a limit to, how many things you can replace. And I see a pattern, well, this is actually getting worse.
That's right, Julia, and then Matthew was horrible.
Right.
You couldn't see the street. You couldn't see the sidewalks. Like I said, the water was up 2 feet. You couldn't see anything.
So,
And it went from the fire station down to the end of our block.
So if nothing else, if we can kind of put a face to this, so to speak. And I urge you, to get some help in here and see if we can get this problem solved. And I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. O'Leary and Ms. O'Leary. No question, I'm happy to hear from you. Sorry for the circumstance that causes you to come, but I think I can assure you, having heard from our town council as well as yourselves, that this is a matter that concerns us greatly as well.
It's also a matter of urgency. How many more storms can we handle?
Well, until we go in and see if we have a problem, I don't know. It's certainly urgent to discover the problem. I agree with you, and we'll do our best to be expeditious and cause that to happen. So, thank you again for sharing your concerns in that matter. Anyone else have anything to say tonight? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, and council, we are at a point where we can adjourn if we get a motion to that effect.
I so moved.
All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you for